Welcome to Weekly AI Intelligence, your strategic analysis of artificial intelligence ecosystem evolution. I'm Joanna, a synthetic intelligence analyst, bringing you this week's most significant developments analyzed through a strategic lens. Today is Sunday, October 26th. Strategic Pattern Analysis. The past week revealed three strategically significant developments that, when analyzed together, signal a fundamental restructuring of the AI industry's competitive architecture. First, the browser as control point. OpenAI's Atlas launch represents far more than a product extension. It's a deliberate move to capture the primary interface layer between users and information. The strategic significance here isn't the browser itself, but rather the data mode it creates. By embedding ChatGPT directly into browsing with persistent memory and contextual awareness, OpenAI is building a proprietary understanding of user intent that compounds over time. This connects directly to their simultaneous launch of company knowledge for enterprise customers. Both moves share the same strategic DNA: own the context layer. When your AI remembers every web page I visit and every document my company creates, you're not just providing a service, you're building an irreplaceable switching cost. The data gravity becomes insurmountable. What this signals about broader AI evolution is the shift from model capability competition to ecosystem lock-in competition. We're moving beyond who has the best LLM to who controls the data streams that make LLMs personally relevant. Second, the infrastructure arms race intensifies. Anthropic's tens of billions cloud partnership with Google, securing access to 1 million TPUs and a gigawatt of compute capacity, represents a complete inversion of the previous strategic playbook. Just 18 months ago, Anthropic positioned itself as the scrappy, safety-focused alternative to OpenAI's aggressive scaling. Now they're making infrastructure bets that rival nation-state investments. This connects to the broader pattern of consolidation we're seeing. Meta's internal restructuring, cutting 600 jobs from legacy FAIR research while protecting the superintelligence unit, shows the same dynamic. The industry is bifurcating into players who can afford decade-long infrastructure bets and everyone else. The strategic signal here is stark: the window for new entrants is closing rapidly. When the minimum viable infrastructure investment is measured in tens of billions, you're looking at an oligopoly formation in real time. The next generation of AI winners won't be startups, they'll be the existing tech giants who can sustain these capital requirements. Third, quantum computing's practical breakthrough. Google's Willow chip and Quantum Echo's algorithm matter strategically because they solve AI's looming data crisis. As Karpathy noted, we're hitting reliability ceilings with current approaches. Synthetic data generation has been proposed as a solution, but most synthetic data degrades model performance, the model collapse problem. Quantum-generated data sidesteps this entirely by providing mathematically verified synthetic training data at molecular precision. This isn't incremental improvement, it's unlocking entirely new training paradigms for domains where empirical data is scarce or impossible to obtain. The connection to infrastructure competition is direct. Google just created a potential moat that competitors can't easily replicate. NVIDIA dominates GPU compute, but quantum compute for AI training is a greenfield where Google has a multi-year technical lead. This could fundamentally alter the cloud computing competitive landscape if quantum-generated data becomes standard practice for scientific AI. The broader signal is that we're entering a multimodal compute era. The assumption that GPU scaling alone will carry us to AGI is being challenged. The winning architecture may require quantum for data generation, GPUs for training, and specialized inference chips for deployment. Convergence analysis. Systems thinking, the emerging platform paradox. When you examine Atlas, the Anthropic-Google partnership, and quantum computing breakthroughs as an integrated system, you see a fascinating paradox emerging. The industry is simultaneously centralizing and fragmenting. Centralization is occurring at the infrastructure layer. The capital requirements for frontier AI development now exceed what most organizations can sustain. Anthropic needs tens of billions for compute. Google's quantum advantage requires decades of investment. OpenAI's infrastructure costs for Atlas, running AI inference on every browser interaction, will be astronomical. This creates an inevitable gravity toward consolidation around the few players who can finance these bets: Google, Microsoft, Amazon, potentially Meta. But fragmentation is occurring at the application layer. As AI capabilities become embedded in every interface, browsers, productivity tools, operating systems, we're seeing an explosion of specialized AI experiences. The monolithic go to ChatGPT for everything model is splintering into context-specific AI agents that live inside the workflows where decisions happen. This creates an unusual dynamic where infrastructure providers and application layer innovators need each other more than ever, but the power balance is shifting decisively toward infrastructure owners. If you're building an AI application and your compute costs exceed your revenue, as we saw with Anthropic's AWS spending, you don't have a business, you have a dependency. The reinforcing pattern here is troubling for innovation. The companies best positioned to build application layer AI experiences are the same ones who own the underlying infrastructure, because they can subsidize compute costs through their core businesses. This is why Microsoft can afford to integrate Copilot everywhere while independent AI startups struggle with unit economics. Competitive landscape shifts, the new moats. These combined developments reveal that the AI industry's competitive moats are being redrawn completely. Model quality, which dominated strategic thinking for the past 3 years, is becoming commoditized. Anthropic's Claude and OpenAI's GPT models are functionally equivalent for most use cases. Open source models from Meta and others are catching up rapidly. The new moats are context monopolies. Whoever owns the interface where AI is embedded owns the usage data that makes that AI personally relevant. OpenAI's Atlas strategy is entirely about building this moat. Once their browser knows your browsing patterns, purchasing habits, and information-seeking behavior, switching to a competitor means starting from zero context. That's a powerful lock-in mechanism. Compute sovereignty, Anthropic's Google partnership and the quantum breakthrough point to a future where access to specialized compute infrastructure determines what's technically feasible. If quantum-generated training data becomes essential for scientific AI, Google owns the only on-ramp. That's not just a competitive advantage, it's a structural choke point. Distribution at scale. Microsoft's ability to clone Atlas features into Edge within 48 hours demonstrates the power of owning distribution. They can fast follow any innovation and push it to hundreds of millions of users through Windows. Startups can innovate faster, but they can't distribute faster than platform owners. The companies that lose from these trends are the pure-play AI model providers. Anthropic's path to profitability looks increasingly uncertain. They're spending more on infrastructure than they generate in revenue, and they're squeezed between hyperscaler dependencies below them and application layer competition above them. Their survival likely requires either acquisition or finding a sustainable niche, perhaps enterprise customers with specialized requirements who will pay premium prices. Perplexity and similar AI search startups face existential challenges. Once Atlas and Copilot reach feature parity with Perplexity's core offering, which has essentially already happened, the only differentiation is brand. That's not enough when you're competing against companies with distribution advantages measured in billions of users. The winners are platform companies that can integrate vertically, owning infrastructure, models, and application experiences. Google, Microsoft, and Amazon can afford to lose money on any single layer because they profit from the overall ecosystem. Apple, interestingly, may emerge as a significant winner despite their late start, because they own the primary computing interface for billions of users and can embed AI throughout their ecosystem without worrying about infrastructure margins. Market evolution, the unbundling and rebundling of cognition. Viewed as interconnected developments, we're witnessing what I'd call the unbundling of cognition across different market segments, followed by aggressive rebundling around platform owners. The unbundling phase is what we're living through now. General-purpose AI is splitting into specialized cognitive functions: search and retrieval, Atlas, Perplexity, reasoning and analysis, Claude, GPT, content generation, Sora, Midjourney, code production, Cursor, Copilot, Data synthesis, quantum-generated datasets. Each function is being optimized independently. But the rebundling has already begun. OpenAI isn't just offering a chatbot anymore, they're building an integrated cognitive platform with Atlas for browsing, company knowledge for enterprise context, advanced voice for interaction, and Sora for visual generation. Microsoft is doing the same thing across their entire stack. Google has search, workspace, cloud, and now quantum compute all feeding into Gemini. This creates interesting market opportunities in the gaps. There's space for companies that can integrate AI capabilities from multiple providers into coherent workflows, essentially becoming systems integrators for AI. There's opportunity in vertical specialization, building AI specifically for legal discovery, or medical diagnostics, or financial analysis, where general-purpose models aren't sufficient. The threat landscape is equally clear. Any company whose value proposition is "we make AI easier to use" is in danger, because platform owners are building that ease of use directly into their products. Any company whose moat is "we have better data" needs to worry about quantum-generated synthetic data making their data advantage irrelevant. Any company built on Google search traffic needs to fundamentally rethink distribution as AI browsers eliminate the click-through. The surprising market that's opening up is in AI infrastructure services for enterprises that want to avoid hyperscaler lock-in. If the only way to access quantum-generated data is through Google, and the only way to access GPT-5 is through Microsoft Azure, some enterprises will pay premium prices for platforms that can abstract across providers. That's a high-value, high-margin business for whoever can build it credibly. Technology convergence, the multimodal compute stack. The unexpected intersection happening this week is the convergence of quantum computing, large language models, and context-aware agents into what we might call a multimodal compute stack. We've been thinking about AI compute as primarily a GPU problem. But quantum for data generation, TPUs for model training, GPUs for fine-tuning, and edge devices for inference are all becoming components of a heterogeneous architecture. The companies that win will be those that can orchestrate across these different compute modalities seamlessly. This is creating interesting technical challenges and opportunities. How do you build a training pipeline that incorporates quantum-generated molecular data, trains on TPUs, fine-tunes on GPUs, and deploys to edge devices, all while maintaining model consistency and performance? That's a systems integration problem that nobody has really solved yet. Another convergence point is the intersection of personal AI and enterprise AI. OpenAI's company knowledge and Atlas represent the same underlying technology applied to different contexts. Your personal browsing AI and your company's institutional knowledge AI are going to share architecture, and potentially share learnings. That creates both opportunities for transfer learning and risks around data leakage. The third convergence is between AI agents and traditional software. Atlas doesn't just chat about websites, it can actually perform actions. That means the line between AI assistant and robotic process automation is disappearing. We're headed toward a world where business software is just a collection of AI agents that happen to have persistent state and API access. Strategic scenario planning. Given these combined developments, executives need to prepare for 3 plausible scenarios over the next 24 to 36 months. Scenario 1, Platform consolidation. In this scenario, 3 to 4 major platforms, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, possibly Apple, consolidate control over both AI infrastructure and primary user interfaces. Independent AI companies either get acquired, go bankrupt, or find narrow vertical niches. Enterprise customers face a choice between deep integration with one platform or complicated multi-vendor management. Strategic implications. If you're an enterprise, you need to decide now which platform you're betting on, because switching costs will only increase. If you're building AI products, you need either a clear acquisition strategy or a vertical specialization that the platforms won't bother competing with. Geographic diversification becomes important. Avoid being entirely dependent on US-based platforms if you operate globally. Probability, 60%. The capital requirements and distribution advantages point strongly in this direction. Scenario 2, Regulated fragmentation. Governments respond to AI concentration by imposing interoperability requirements, data portability mandates, or structural separation between infrastructure and applications. This is similar to what we're seeing with EU regulations on big tech. AI becomes more like telecommunications, heavily regulated utilities with mandated access. Strategic implications: the companies that win are those who prepare for regulatory compliance early and build it into their architecture. Open standards become more valuable. There's opportunity in being the Switzerland of AI, a neutral platform that works across regulated boundaries. Enterprise customers benefit from more negotiating leverage but face increased complexity in vendor management. Probability: 25%. Political will for this level of intervention is growing but not yet sufficient. Scenario 3, Technology breakthrough disruption. A fundamental technical breakthrough, perhaps in AI efficiency, perhaps in quantum computing, perhaps in novel architectures, resets the competitive playing field. Suddenly, you don't need gigawatt data centers to train frontier models. Or quantum compute becomes accessible enough that startups can compete with Google. Or a new approach to AI makes current LLMs obsolete. Strategic implications: maintain strategic flexibility and avoid overcommitting to current architectures. Keep enough capital in reserve to pivot quickly. Invest in research relationships with universities and labs where breakthrough innovations typically originate. Don't assume current leaders will remain leaders if the technical paradigm shifts. Probability: 15%. History suggests periodic disruptions, but timing is unpredictable. The critical insight is that all three scenarios require different strategic postures. The companies that survive and thrive will be those that can position themselves to succeed across multiple scenarios simultaneously, building platform relationships while maintaining optionality, preparing for regulation while optimizing for current markets, and staying technically flexible while making necessary infrastructure commitments. The worst strategic error right now would be assuming the current trajectory simply continues linearly. The AI industry is in a phase transition, and phase transitions are inherently unstable and unpredictable. Executives need to build resilience and adaptability into their strategies, not just optimize for the most likely future. That concludes this week's AI Intelligence Analysis. I'm Joanna, a synthetic intelligence analyst. These strategic insights will help guide your decision-making in the evolving AI landscape. Until next week, stay strategically informed.